you so much. Here we go. Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to the Pierce County Library System for having DFI here. We are talking about cryptocurrency, which I do get a lot of questions about. So hopefully we can answer some questions for you today. So we'll just go ahead. The first thing I always have to do is a disclaimer. So the comments and opinions expressed today are solely my comments and opinions and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of Financial Institutions, its management, or anyone associated with the department. And DFI, we cannot give legal or financial advice, and we do not endorse or recommend any person, product, or institution. Although I will be talking about some products and institutions during this, we're not promoting those entities, but just know that I will provide examples. Okay, so DFI, what do we do? A lot of people don't know who we are. So we are located in Tumwater, Washington. We have about 200 employees, and we license, examine, and enforce. And so we regulate a lot of financial institutions in the state of Washington. You know, banks, credit unions, payday lenders, money transmitters, check cashers, mortgage brokers, loan officers, financial advisors, broker dealers, and also student loan servicers. We have a couple other folks that are not listed on this list, but that just kind of gives you an idea of who we do regulate. We're one of our main goals is to protect consumers and then also educate, so provide education. So online and printed materials, present at workshops like this, and then generally act as a resource for Washingtonians regarding financial regulation. So the goals for today, so this is a big area and it's changing all the time. So just to level set, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through some common FinTech terms, products, and services, just so there's just a general lay of the land of what FinTech is, what cryptocurrency is. And then I'd like to talk about and identify common scams. And then also the last part, we're going to be learning tips and tricks, you know, to help avoid scams. So those are the goals. So you won't come out of here a cryptocurrency expert, but hopefully we can provide some information to you that you can understand what your friends or family are talking about when they're talking about FinTech, cryptocurrency, etc. Oops. So the first question I get is, what is FinTech? Like, what is that? And maybe you've heard that term and maybe you haven't. FinTech is just technically, it's just two words put together. It's financial and technology. And what it really means is it's conducting financial activities without a human. Now, this is my definition. There is no set definition in the law what FinTech is. So examples, I'll give you a really old example, which is an ATM that's conducting a financial activity with no human interaction. You're just at the ATM, you might be doing banking business there. That's FinTech, technically. You know, today we have things that are like phone apps. So we have Venmo, PayPal. Those are ways that we can move money around pretty easily. We don't have to use a check. We don't have to use a mail system. We can just send money over, you know, our phones. We also have something called robo-advisors. Examples there would be Wealthfront or Betterment. So that's like typically a registered investment advisor. You give them $100,000. They invest on your behalf. They put it in stocks and bonds, and it's a human doing that kind of activity. With the robo-advisors, it's a company where there's AI or artificial intelligence that are running these portfolios. So when you give money to them, they will try to get a return, but there's little to no human interaction. It's really just the computer. And then we also have a different kind of FinTech. Those are budgeting apps. So maybe you've heard of those. Those are Mint or Credit Karma. Those are pretty common ones. And one thing, I have a star here because budgeting apps are not regulated. So when you hear FinTech, a lot of people think, oh, well, that just means it must be regulated or it's unregulated. Well, it really depends on the activity. So Venmo, PayPal, Wealthfront, and Betterment are all regulated by DFI. Things like Mint or Credit Karma, because the activity itself isn't something that we regulate. It's not something that we would, you know, have any jurisdiction over. So that's just a lay of the land of what FinTech is. Okay, so what are digital assets? So when we talk at DFI about cryptocurrency or virtual currency, we're actually talking like a broader umbrella. There's a broader umbrella of digital assets. And those digital assets could be cryptocurrency or virtual currency, stable coins, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, non-fungible tokens or NFTs, tokenized securities and initial coin offerings. Those are just different types of digital assets, and I'll be going through those different categories today. But primarily what people think of is they think of cryptocurrency. Okay, so with distributed, I would just want to bring up a concept here. This is called distributed ledger technology, or DLT. So DLT is this concept where you have, instead of one ledger, so like your bank has one ledger with all of the financial transactions taking place, distributed ledger technology is the ledger is distributed amongst a bunch of people, peers, computers, folks, and then they all kind of reconcile back. So it's not just one person that has control over the ledger. So that is what distributed ledger technology is. And I'll go to my next slide. So you probably heard of blockchain, and blockchain is a kind of DLT, or a distributed ledger technology. So it is a digital ledger that records transactions. The transactions cannot be altered retroactively without the alteration of all subsequent blocks, and we'll talk about what the blocks are. The ledger is maintained using a peer-to-peer network of users, so users all over the world, and ledgers can be centralized with just a specific group of network users, or decentralized like Bitcoin, with anyone having access to the ledger. So that's just the concept. You kind of have this idea of what a blockchain is. So many people say like, okay, I get what you're saying, it's just distributed, but like, how does it work? I don't really understand what's happening. This is just a visual representation, and this is a very simplistic version of how blockchain works. But essentially we have the green block at the very beginning. That's been a prior verified block. And then when you want to do more transactions, you will add on to that block, and that'll be in the black block, and it'll create a verified chain of blocks. And then a purple block is when there was no verifications, and those are called orphan blocks, meaning they're forks. So they weren't verified and they were not added to the blockchain. So you can see over time the blocks that get added and verified. And so each block, so the green and the black, they, and also the purple ones here, they create a timestamp. So it has like timestamp of when that block was created. It'll have transaction data in it. And we'll also have a cryptographic hash. So that's a mathematical algorithm linking it to the previous block. So the thing about blockchain is it's immutable. You've heard that, like it can't be changed after the fact. You can't go back and like change the blockchain. I mean, technically you can in certain circumstances, but for the most part, it's just set in stone as you just keep adding to the next block. So the next question is, well, how are the blocks added to the blockchain? Like that doesn't make any sense. How does this happen? Well, there are people that are called miners, and the miners maintain the ledger by approving transactions into the blocks to add to the blockchain by solving a mathematical puzzle. And what do? So the miners, they help issue. So the example that we have here is Bitcoin. It could be any cryptocurrency. They might issue new Bitcoin. They confirm the transaction itself, and then they maintain the ledger's protocols. So the miners play an important role because they are always helping verify the transactions on the blockchain and adding it to the block or the blockchain. I wanted to give you just an idea of some consensus mechanisms. So there's three different kinds of consensus mechanisms. This is very detailed, so I won't get too far into it. But there's something called proof of work, proof of stake, and proof of burn. And those are different ways to that miners or people out in the blockchain world are making sure that the next block is correct. We also have this concept of blockchain nodes. So this is what I was kind of talking about. Anybody can like tune into a blockchain if it's a public network, and they can be a node on the network. So this is why this area has been so interesting to people, because it's all over the world. People can verify these blocks or have access to the blockchain as a node. We also have this concept of blockchain oracles. So we might have the problem with blockchains is if you're on one blockchain with one type of asset and there's another blockchain with another type of asset, you can't connect in between the blockchains. So we have different, we have something called blockchain oracles, which will have a blockchain A, and they'll have input oracles that take off-chain data, so a different data set, and they move it to blockchain A. They will then maybe put it, there are also output oracles that will help move chain data off. So there will be an off-chain recipient. And then we have another blockchain B, and that's how that kind of works. So this is a very technical thing, but just so you understand, one of the concepts with blockchain is, oh, well, you can't really like exchange between the blockchains, and these oracles help facilitate that. And oh, here we go. We have a cross-chain oracle. And I don't know why my computer is not doing this. Okay, let's see. So we have digital asset. So the other type of digital asset, so what we talked about is cryptocurrency or virtual currency. So DFI, we use those terms interchangeably, cryptocurrency and virtual currency. So the type of digital asset is the idea behind it was that it was going to be used as a new type of currency. So this is the timeline of top 10 cryptocurrencies in August of 2021. This is fairly old data, but the visual is still good. It shows you that in 2009, you know, it's quite a long time ago now, Bitcoin was introduced, and it was released in January 2029. Then we have XRP. That was a big one that was introduced in 2012. Dogecoin, maybe you've heard of that one. That's on 2013. And then we have in 2014 is Tether, a big one. Ethereum, 2015. 2017 is Binance Coin. 2017 Cardano. 2017 Solana. 2018 USD, and 2020 we have Polkadot. These are all cryptocurrencies that are on different chains and that people invest in. And so this just gives you kind of an idea of, you know, the value that they're at. You know, they're quite a big, it's quite a big marketplace. At the height, it was about, I think it was like $3 trillion were in this. So let's see if I can move my slide along. Okay. So now you might be thinking, okay, that's great. I have all these cryptocurrencies, but like, how do I keep them? Well, you need a wallet typically. So if you think about it, on the blockchain, your asset lives on the blockchain. So there's nothing to put in your wallet because it all lives in the internet, right? You have all of your assets somewhere else. But what you do have is a key. So when people are talking about trading cryptocurrency, they're usually trading the key around. So we have a public key and a private key. So a public key is the public address, and that's like your home address, right? And everyone can see that. And if somebody knows my username or whatever, they might know that that's my public address. They could see, you know, how much cryptocurrency I hold in a wallet. The private keys are user controlled. So I have the keys that kind of unlock that, and I'm able to get into my assets. Now, we also have something else called a custodial wallet and a non-custodial wallet. So custodial wallets are hosted, meaning you could have a wallet by a company that issues a walleting service, or you could have a non-custodial wallet, which means that you just control it. And I like to think of that as you have, they call it a digital mattress, meaning like you're just stuffing your money in a mattress, but instead of a mattress, you have it either in paper, you've written down, you know, the key. I forgot to mention the key is a cryptographical, it's just a long string of numbers. So you could write that down, you could print it out, you could have it on your computer, and there are pros and cons to having your own, keeping your own keys. If you have your own keys, you could get hacked. There's multiple things that could happen. You could lose it. There's lots of stories of people losing their keys. The problem with having a custodial wallet is potentially that if it is hosted somewhere else, that could get hacked. So there are issues with custodial versus non-custodial wallets. And then just a concept here I wanted to put out here is that hot wallet is connected to the internet. and a cold wallet is not connected to the internet. And there's other types of wallets, but I'm just giving you like basic concepts for today. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So we have something, there's another type of digital asset. It's called a stablecoin. So these are cryptocurrencies that offer price stability backed with a stable asset. So what does that mean? So typically that's when like the stable coin is, it's on a blockchain and it is backed by US dollars, it could be gold, it could be cash-like securities, or it could be another cryptocurrency. The way that I describe this to people, it's very similar to a money market mutual fund. So those, if anybody remembers when money market mutual funds broke the buck, they were, you know, every time $1 goes into the money market mutual fund, it represents $1. Same concept with stable coins. When you put $1 in it, you have a representation or assets that represent $1. And so there have been some issues with stable coins with the Terra Luna item that happened last year. That was a stable coin that was actually backed by another cryptocurrency, and it failed, and it set off a chain reaction of failures for other crypto companies, and then potentially with like the traditional financial system, which is what the concern is right now, is that it's kind of a domino effect. But essentially that is what a stable coin is. Now, other people view a stable coin as another type of rail. So when you think of rails, financial rails, the traditional one is cash. Then you might have check. You have ACH. And then another type of rail is wire. People are considering stable coins to be another new rail so that you could send a stable coin dollar for dollar across the world, and people could use the stable coin in that manner. They could settle payments, you don't have to go through foreign exchange, etc. So that's the concept around stable coins and why people are so interested in those. So I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So another type of digital asset that you might have heard of is called a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC. And these are digital representations of a sovereign currency backed by the full faith and credit of the subject country. The United States is working on a CBDC. They put out a white paper last year explaining kind of what their thought process is around that. And other countries are really looking into like basically issuing their own kind of coin or CBDC that would act similarly to cash. Okay, I'm going to talk about another type of digital asset here. These are called non-fungible tokens. The example, I have it at the bottom here, but is, I don't know if you heard of the Board Ape Yacht Club. That was very big about a year ago. And so what is it? What are these images? Like, why are people spending money on them? So non-fungible means that an asset cannot be copied or substituted. So cash is fungible, meaning like I give you $1, you can give me $1. It doesn't have to be the exact same dollar. You know, they all have serial numbers on them, but that doesn't really matter. We can exchange them. A non-fungible token is something that it can't be copied or substituted, and it has its own certificate of authenticity. It acts like a receipt. It has its own digital representation of that asset, and it can be stored on an open blockchain and can be tracked. Now, the idea of like we're sending these pictures around, they're very expensive, people are making a lot of money on them. That's just one use of that. But the problem with those are they don't necessarily have the intellectual property rights that go along with the asset. So you might have a picture, you have the digital representation that you own it, but people can still copy and paste it and spread it all around the world because it doesn't fall under the copyright laws or trademark and all of that stuff. So one of the uses that people think that they will be using NFTs in the future is more for like concert tickets, where it's a unique asset, it can't be copied. And so, you know, tracking of those types of things, you know, they're looking at different ways that commerce can use this technology so that you have like
Air Jordans and they're like the real Air Jordans, and you don't have a fake, knockoff version. So that's kind of where it's going. But it's new technology, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if you hear about NFTs, that's what they are. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about are tokens and initial point offerings. These are units of value developed on an existing blockchain. They may be considered regulated securities with limited exceptions, and they're used in gaming and other applications. And they were popular in like 2017. So if you heard of like an ICO, it was like people getting money to start basically a company, essentially. And those have kind of fallen out of vogue or favor, but people still do want to issue them. But the securities laws may prevent people from taking further action. They have to meet certain conditions. So yeah, another concept I wanted to talk about here is a smart contract. So you might hear this. A smart contract is an electronic contract, and it's an if-then proposition. It's self-executing, and it can be found on a blockchain, and it's irreversible. So a lot of people are involved in these smart contracts, particularly in the DeFi space, which I'll talk about a little bit. But you might lend somebody money, and once the contract is fulfilled, you get paid back. But we use if-then propositions all the time. Like, for instance, if you had on a broker-dealer platform, you have Amazon stock, and you say sell when it gets to this point. That's an if-then proposition. Charles Schwab or whoever your platform will just sell it at a certain price. That's an if-then proposition. So smart contracts already exist in other realms, but smart contracts are being used in this cryptocurrency type world a little bit more. So that's just a concept to kind of understand. So another thing here to talk about quickly is there's this concept of DeFi. I just mentioned DeFi. I think I mentioned a couple of times. And then we have CeFi. Centralized finances, the world that we have today. We have the Federal Reserve, and they distribute cash through the banks in the banking system. DeFi is when there's no central bank, and everybody, the idea behind that is there's no bank, but we can all bank with each other. So we can go out on a platform, and I need $100,000 and you have $100,000 to give, so we can transact in that way. And that's a DeFi platform. And DeFi platforms are typically unregulated. So here's a little slide on DeFi technology. It just continues to evolve. So it uses distributed ledger technology and usually cryptocurrency to provide a range of financial services. True DeFi is trustless, meaning it's peer-to-peer. It does not include an intermediary. DeFi platforms may hold your cryptocurrency and pay you interest, like an interest-bearing checking or savings account. And your interest value may also be loaned out in virtual currency or fiat. So that's like US dollars. You may borrow money or value using your existing virtual currency to collateralize a loan. So it's a peer-to-peer banking, essentially. I next want to talk about virtual currency exchanges. Maybe you've heard of these. So these are, I'm not talking about the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. I'm talking about exchanges where you can just really exchange a virtual currency for fiat currency or for funds, or from, you could also other forms of virtual currency, and that's usually for a fee. And I'm just giving you an example. Again, I'm not promoting these entities, but these are the top 5 virtual currency exchanges by volume, and I visited it today. Binance, Coinbase Exchange, Kraken, KuCoin, and Bitfinex. And those are the top 5 right now based on like how much volume they do. And those are folks that are like transacting and getting in and out of different cryptocurrencies, or trying to go to cash, that kind of thing. We also, I just wanted to talk about staking and yield farming. They're actually 2 different concepts, but I'm putting them together here because it kind of makes sense. And it's similar, it's basically the DeFi conversation earlier, where you're placing crypto assets in a staking pool and you're locking those for a fixed time frame. And staked crypto assets are used on a blockchain network to participate in transaction validation in the proof of stake consensus system. So when I was talking about consensus, that's you stake crypto in order to agree that a transaction should go on the next block, or the next block should be verified. So
And then also investors will earn interest on their staked crypto while their rewards are to be released. And then it's also when you're placing digital assets on a platform in exchange for yield, interest, rewards, or asset appreciation. And like I said before, it's similar to a bank deposit without the regulatory protections. So I'm putting two concepts together. So if you're a real crypto person, you're going to say that's not technically correct, but I'm kind of putting those concepts together. So they're similar. And then I wanted to talk really quickly about the metaverse. So this was bigger last year. It's kind of fallen off if you've been reading the news about Meta and you know, whether or not they're going to keep going with this, but it kind of goes into this cryptocurrency world because it's about virtual reality or augmented reality. There's avatars in a 3D world, and what was happening in there was sales of virtual assets. There were also, you know, banks were getting in there and they were saying, hey, you're going to like build a house and you're going to have a business in the metaverse. And so, you know, how does that all work? Are those going to be regulated if we're all in the metaverse? And, you know, it's not a new idea, actually. There were earlier iterations of this, Second Life, The Sims, Minecraft. But Meta or Facebook, the company, went all in last year because they really thought this was going to be the future. And so it just brought up a lot of questions about, like, do laws apply? Like, do like the laws of like the where we live, do they apply in the metaverse? And the financial laws would be one aspect of that. And so I bring that up as an interesting piece here. There's also something else you should be aware of. It's called Web3. There's a lot of people that talk about Web3 right now. They're like, oh, I'm a Web3 developer. There really is no set definition of what Web3 is. And it is technically just a new internet based on blockchain or decentralized technologies. The concept being that all of our, you know, everything we do today is going to be done in this blockchain world. And we're going to use AI or machine learning for content. And we're also going to commodify our own digital identity. Those are the themes of Web3, but there really is no set definition, but you might hear a lot about it because it kind of marries crypto with technology, and that we're not going to be in this, you know, web world we're in now. We're going to be in a new and a future web. So that's Web3. Okay, I want to talk about cryptocurrency scams, because I think that's what's most important. It's good to know the lay of the land, like what's kind of happening, but we really need to focus on like what to be aware of and like what's kind of happening out there. So these are just some of the scams we see. I don't have them all, but one is called an advance fee scam. Now that is an old scam. That scam has been around probably for 100 years or hundreds of years. But what that means, there's kind of two that I put in this. There's one's pig butchering and one's a honeypot. I'll give examples. Pig butchering scam is like, hey, why don't you invest in this cryptocurrency? And here's the platform, and log on and set up an account. Set up an account and you give them some money, you give them like $10,000, and then, oh my goodness, that cryptocurrency is just going up, 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 up. All of a sudden you're a millionaire, right? Wow, they took my $10,000. Now I'm a millionaire. Okay, now I want to cash out. So I go to cash out and I get a message and it says, actually, you have to pay tax. You owe $30,000 because you made $1 million. So send us the $30,000 and we'll release your funds. So you think that's reasonable. Okay, so I'll send $30,000 and then they disappear. The whole platform goes down, they disappear. That's pig butchering. They're fattening you up and then for the kill. So they've gotten your $10,000 and they've gotten your $30,000, probably all of your personal data, your banking information. And so that's called an advance fee scam, which is, yes, basically what I explained. A honeypot scam is similar. That one, I think you have to be a little bit more tech savvy to kind of get sucked into one of those. So that will be like a crypto person comes to another crypto person and says, hey, guess what? I found a vulnerability in this one protocol or this chain or this crypto. And actually, if you put in this amount, then you can get this back. And what they do is they send you to like basically a malicious site. and then you try to do the vulnerability, and then they steal all your crypto. So that one is called a honeypot scam, but they're both kind of the same theme, which is you're being lured into something, and then you end up giving more information or all of your money, etc. There's another one called a rug pull. It's literally what you think. You get the rug pulled out from underneath you. So that was very big about a year ago on Twitter. For instance, you would see people saying, hey, I have a new crypto. We're gonna go to the moon with this one. It's got, you know, the developers on it. Like, we know that this is going to be the next big thing. And so give us your money and you can be part of this project. And then they would raise millions of dollars and then go dark with project, and they were gone, out of sight. And everybody lost all their money because they thought they were going to be on this big next crypto thing. Those ones still happen, I believe, but they were really, really, really prominent about a year ago. We also have something called romance scams, which that's been more in the news, and that's been that's just when someone meets you online, they develop a relationship with you. Could be friendship, could be romance, and then as time goes on and you're really invested in the relationship, they say, hey, I'm like down on my luck, or I need this, I need that. Can you send me money? Oh, by the way, can you send it in crypto? It could be in cash, could be wire, could be anything, but with crypto, it become more and more prevalent is kind of what we had been seeing. And then we have affinity fraud, again, an old fraud. This fraud's been around for centuries. It's just when you have this similar church group, an interest group, political group, any kind of group that you might be in, or, you know, you're into some sort of metaphysical thing. It could be anything. And the person that's there starts trying to get you to like invest with them or a new product or something. So that has happened in the crypto space as well, with people being so rah about crypto. They get into these affinity fraud problems. So a lot of these scams are just old as time, right? But they're delivered in a new way. I'm just going to go over these. These are other ones that we see. So fake crypto recovery services. This is actually really sad. So on Twitter, when somebody would say, I just got rug pulled, somebody just took all my money. Another person on Twitter would say, hey, actually, I run a recovery service. I can get that back for you. So you give them all your information and some money, and then they steal from you again. So you're like twice defrauded. So that's a fake crypto recovery service that was really big. I saw a lot of that last year. Fake airdrops, lookalike links, and fake landing pages. Airdrops are when people literally on iPhone like airdrop you some assets. So you could open that and it could steal all your crypto. That's happening. Lookalike links and fake landing pages, that's like anything that could be like a bank. Like, oh, you think you're at Bank of America, but you're at bankofamerica.net. So, you know, there's all those kinds of problems. Fake smart contracts. We talked about smart contracts before. That there's fraud involved in it. Fake games and investment apps. This is a real problem as well, that you download in the game store a game or even an investment app. What should I invest in? And when you pull them onto your computer, they defraud you in some way. There's also fake cloud mining. So we're not talking about miners. Like, miners were making a lot of money at a certain time because they were mining the crypto and adding to the blockchain. And what people would say is, hey, I have this whole big mining farm and all we're doing is mining. And if you invest in the mining farm, you can get a return. And so people would invest in a mining farm. What was actually happening is, you know, like even the people would like look online and they would see like, you know, a green screen of all like the numbers and seeing how it was mining. And it was just on a loop. It was just like a fake video of people watching, thinking they were making all this money, and it was all fake. Fake posts and hacked accounts, you know, that could be with anything, but with cryptocurrency, it tended to be, you know, a really big problem. So tips and tricks, like how can you avoid scams? So I'll just go through this pretty quickly. But the warning signs that I think are really important is using urgency to get you to act. Anytime somebody says, you have to do it now, you have to do it now. I'm the IRS, I'm calling you, or I'm the IRS on your phone, or I'm some government entity and you're being investigated, like anything like that, and it has to be done right now, just pause, call a friend, walk down to your bank, credit union, ask, like, does this seem right? Using terms like promise or guarantee, you know, anything like that is technically illegal. Like, legitimate companies can't say, you will absolutely get all of your investment back plus some. That's how you like securities laws say you cannot do that. No one can promise anything. And especially if we're in exorbitant return. So 50 to 200% return. Danger, just pause on that one. You know, the current rates are 0.01 to 5%, you know, like now, I mean, 5%, I mean, good luck on getting that, but you know, interest rates have gone up, but anything that's just this exorbitant return, just pause, take a beat, think about it, and just ask yourself, am I getting scammed? Other tips and tricks, review the website. Does the street address exist, right? Most legitimate companies have a street address. Although I will say in the digital world we live in, a lot of companies don't have to post their address, but a lot of fake companies do. Does it exist? Is it in this country? That's another question you need to ask yourself. If you start sending money out, you know, around the world, there's no one to help you, you know. Terms and conditions, does the product, let's say it is a legitimate company, does the product or service disclaim all liability? Do they say, oh, well, actually, if we lose all your money, like, too bad. Grammatical errors or odd uses of language, you know, that's always a key that something's not quite right. Or are there genuine certificates of incorporation or licensing information? You know, like I've gotten something that says, oh, I saw that there was a Bitcoin miner license that was issued by the city of Seattle. Is this real? No, it's not real. There's no such thing, right? So just be aware, try to just really pause and think if you're being scammed. Be aware of online rooms, online chat rooms and social media. So we have fake profiles, fake reviews, bots that you're talking to a computer. You know, we did just, you know, the fake profiles is a problem. Like LinkedIn has a problem with that. We actually had someone that was saying they worked at DFI and then they were trying to get people to get money. I mean, there's a problem. Fake profiles, fake reviews, targeted social media platforms, could be any social media, but here are just some of them: Viber, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, WeChat, Facebook, Telegram, Reddit, and Discord. You know, a lot of those will have little chat rooms of like financial advice, right? But a lot of times that's just like a pump and dump scheme. Like they're just like pumping up some sort of asset, everybody buys in, they cash out, and everyone's left holding the bag. Okay. Another tip, never give out your online banking account or password information, ever. Just don't do it. Anyone can be on anyone on the internet. Don't get drawn into online conversations with unknown people, especially people that said they've made a lot of money in cryptocurrency. Think twice before accepting friend requests on social media profiles that list cryptocurrency trader as occupation, or any kind of friend request, because a lot of times they're just mining you for your information so that they can try to hack into your bank account. You know, like, especially they're like, oh, her dog is Fluffy, I'm going to try Fluffy 20, you know what I mean? So just be really careful who you friend. Only scammers demand payment in virtual currency. Only scammers will guarantee profits and big returns. Never mix online dating advice and investment advice. So those are just some tips and tricks. Okay, here's the beware part that I wanted to talk about. Virtual currency values change constantly. Something that is worth $1 today could be worth $1 million tomorrow, and then back $1 or less than $1 the following day. If you're interested in investing in this stuff, just know that you could lose everything. That's just bottom line. You know, you're free to do what you want with your money. Just know that you might lose it all. Virtual currency is not backed by the government. There's no government that's going to step in and like give you your money back. There's no FDIC insurance. There's nothing. There is no guarantee by the government or financial institution that your virtual currency will be convertible to US dollars. That's happened where, you know, virtual currency may be lost in bankruptcy. You can't get your money out. Okay, the company has filed for bankruptcy. It was a legitimate company. It was a virtual currency company. There's no one that's going to step in and get you your money back. Okay, and digital wallets, like we talked about earlier, they may be vulnerable to hacks. So those are just some of the pieces. And I believe I have one more on beware continued. Virtual currency payments are hard to trace and recover. Now that seems odd because we can see all of the financial transactions in the wallets, right? Well, scammers are smart and they will move money so fast and combine it with other things and then move it back in and out, move it in and out. And it's hard to trace and recover. Your $10,000 that you lost is like pennies in the wind. You know, there are people like, you know, the federal government might be going after somebody, but they're looking for like millions or billions of dollars. You're tracing your funds is just kind of not going to be feasible. Virtual currency payments come with limited protections. Some information about your transactions will likely be public. Like if somebody knows your public addresses, your wallet, they can see how much money you have, how much you're transferring in and out. And then also just research a virtual currency or trading platforms performance or history before investing. If it is a legitimate company, just look into their performance history. And then just know that there is a connection to criminal activity, ransomware. So that's where scammers will shut down people's computers or do awful things to them and say the only way you can pay me is through cryptocurrency. And then there are various tax implications. So if you filed your taxes already this year, there's some questions about cryptocurrency, and it can be quite onerous to report all of your transactions. So those are just some beware type things. Now, again, you're free to invest your money wherever you like, but there's just things to think of. So remember, there is no such thing as a risk-free investment. And if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I wanted to highlight here. So what I was talking about, so I am the attorney for the agency. I'm the director of regulatory and legal affairs. That's like one part of my job. And then this other part is I kind of lead this area called the Center for FinTech. And this is kind of what the website looks like. You're welcome to go visit that website. It has a lot of information about industry, but also some consumer stuff. And then also we have a wonderful timeline of the beginning of time of money, not the beginning of time, but talking about how all of this FinTech stuff has gone on over time. So here's the website, and my name again is Ali Higgs. I have my email address. I have my the FinTech info email address that goes to a group of us at the agency. You can call me. We have the website. We also have the FinTech website. We have this news and alerts one is a very good one to visit because it talks about all the different frauds and scams and different things that consumers should be aware of. And then we also have just financial education. So with that, I am done, and I really appreciate your time. And I think that's it for right now.
Ali, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. It's such great information, and we're going to go ahead and make this available on our PCLS YouTube channel.
Oh, great.